Alright then, let's get going. Okay, so I will start here the different form of how to retrieve extra information from an intent. So I'm going to put extra on this. Okay, how to retrieve extra information from an intent. The story doesn't end here. When Android tells oh I'm recording yes. When Android tells a received when Android tells a received message activity to start, received message activity needs some way of retrieving the extra information that create right. Okay. There are a couple of useful methods that can help with this. This is the first. This get intent returns the intent that shared the activity. Okay, and you can use it to retrieve any extra information that was sent along with it. We have the eyes. So you know the Android information that create the okay. How do you do this depends on the type of information that was sent. As an example, if you know the intent includes a string value named message, you would do the following. Okay, so we can retrieve the string like get the intent and from that intent get string extra. Okay, did I actually put anything? No, I just started the activity and I didn't put anything. So let's close it for now. Right. So you're not just limited to retrieving string values. As an example, you can use int num intent get int extra name and default value. To retrieve an int with a name of name dot default value specifies what int value you should use as a default. Sorry, I don't get it. Okay, so you're not just limited to retrieving string values. An example you can use int num equals intent of get int extra. So this function string extra int extra are used here. Get int extra, which we provide a name and then a default. You retrieve an int with a name. Okay. Default value specifies what int value you should use as a default. Huh. I don't get it. Okay, so tool button, your job is to take code snippets from the code and place them in the blank create. Not use the same code snippet more than once, and you won't need to use all the code snippets. Okay, so I want to. The goal is to make the activity retrieve text from the message, edit text, and add it to the intent. So we go is text edit text. Yes. So we take this, take this all the way here. Right. Then I need to create a reference to edit text. Edit text. Edit text. Sorry. Edit text. Input. I also need to import. Import here as well. But you know what? I can just write it. Okay. Okay, so let's continue. So yeah, I think it was better that I should just write it out. So we'll take that. Import. have Android.widget edit text. Android.widget dot edit text. Right. So there it is. Yes. Okay. Then we want to get view by ID. Find view by ID. R.id.message. Right. So we go edit text message view. So let's try edit text message view equals find view by ID. Find view by ID. Dot ID dot message. Cast it. Right, cast it to edit text. Then I want to put extra. Put extra data. Then I want to get it. Right. I want to get the string. So put extra string. Search equals to so I want string then a string name message text. Yes, then string message text equals edit text equals message view dot get. Okay, is there a function to get text dot to string, right? I believe this is how we do this. So I'm not very sure. We convert it to string function, right? Text function. Then we put extra. Then we get the intent. The intent is dot put extra. What do I want to put? Message. And then I want to put the message text. And then we start the activities. Let's see. Import, then edit view, to string. Yes. Okay, so I was the field message. Okay, so I was right. Then the message text. Put extra string. Put extra view message and then okay, update the create. So let's update it. So I Android dot widget dot edit text. We will be using this widget. So first get the reference to the edit text. Edit text message view equals edit text find view by ID r dot id dot message, right? Then I want to get a string message text equals message view dot get text dot to string because we are getting the string. message text. Okay, then I want to put extra within the intent, get the reference, edit text and retrieve the string. Retrieve the string. Okay, then create an intent object and put the extra information. So we can put extra information and intent dot put extra. We the name is, and the value is our message text. So that is all. I still don't know why I'm going to find view by ID. Future solve find view by sorry ID. So there we go. Read the changes. Put this create message activity. Okay, receives message activity dot extra message text. So create an intent, then add the text to the intent by using a constant for the name of extra information so that we know create message activity and receive message activity are using the same string. Okay, we'll add this constant to receive message activity on the next page. So don't worry if Android Studio says it doesn't exist. Okay, so we are going to get the text that's in the edit text. Start receiving message activity with the start receive message activity with the intent. So I receive message activity dot extra instead of message. Receive message activity dot message extra message extra message. So it will throw an error, which is okay for now. Okay, get receive message activity to use the information in the intent. Now that we've changed create message activity to add text to intent, we'll update receive message activity so that it uses the text. We're going to get receive message activity to display the message in the text view in its text view when the activity gets created. Okay, so do I have a text view over here? No, I don't have a text view. So I guess, okay, so I do have a text view, but it doesn't have any text right now. Android layout gravity equals center. See, there it is. Center, horizontal, center, vertical. To go with center.
এটা সিধা গিয়ে সিধা
Okay, so we declare this is a global variable and a static variable which can be accessed with the class name extra message. Extra message. Sorry, simple message. So now it is resolved. Then we go on to add. Okay, so we on create we get the intent equals get intent. String message text equals intent dot get string extra. Get the intent and get the message from the get string extra. So creating first get the intent. Let's call this activity right. So intent equals get intent right. Intent equals get intent. Then we want to get the message along with the intent. Get the message, the intent, string, text equals intent dot get extra, get string extra. Then we find the name which is extra message, extra message, right? Then we get the reference to the text view, get the reference to the text view, and update its text. Text view, message view, text view, and then find view by id r dot sorry, r dot id dot I don't have a receive. I think I should id dot message. I should be id message. Sorry, at the rate plus id. Was it at the rate or plus at the rate? At the rate plus id. Message receive and I have the same thing the edit text, right? Then we can go message view dot set text as message text, right? Message text. Add text to the message text. Before we take the app for a test drive, let's learn through the current code, what current code does. Okay, when user clicks on the button on send message, method is called, right? Method is called. Code within the onSend message method creates an intent to start activity, receive message activity, adds a message to intent and passes it to the Android with instruction to start the activity. Android checks that the intent is okay and then tells the receive message activity to start. The viewer when receive message activity starts, it specifies that it uses layout this and gets displayed on the device. Right? The activity also updates the layout so that it displays the extra text included in the intent. And so quickly so draw it layout. What is weight? What is wait for? What are the different center? Does not a valid value. Integer material question one. Okay, I don't know. Let's leave this out. Message. Run the activity here. Share that. Nice. You hold it right there. That sounds like a big amount of work to get our apps working with all those other apps. And how the heck do I know what apps people have on their devices? It's not as hard as it sounds thanks to the way Android is designed to work. Remember, right at the beginning of the chapter when we said that tasks are multiple activities chained together? Well, you're not just limited to using activities within your app. You can go beyond the boundaries of your app to use activities within other apps as well. How Android apps work. As you've seen, as you have seen, I don't think I'll be using any other, so I can put it to date and restart. Configuring dates, changing so Gemini Studio preferences, quality of stability, system agent. Okay, so how Android apps work. As you've seen, all Android apps are composed of one or more activities, along with other components such as layouts. Each activity is a single defined focused thing the user can do. As an example, apps such as Gmail, Google Plus, Facebook, and Twitter all have activities that enable you to send messages even though they may achieve this in different ways. Each app is composed of a bunch of activities. There are other components too, but we're just focusing on activities right now. So intents can start activities in other apps. You've already seen how you can use an intent to start a second activity within the same app. The first activity passes an intent to Android, Android checks it, and then the Android tells the second activity to start. The same principle applies to activities in other apps. You get an activity in your app to pass an intent to Android. Android checks it and then Android tells the second activity to start even though it's in another app. Okay. As an example, we can use an intent to start the activity in Gmail that sends messages and pass it the text we want to send. That means that instead of writing our own activities to send emails, we can use existing Gmail. Such an intent and Gmail. This app we've been working on the app. You can create an intent. You can create an intent that starts another activity even if the activity is in another app. This means that you can build apps that done start. This means that this means that you can build apps that perform powerful tasks by chaining together activities across device. But we don't know what apps are on the user's devices. There are three questions we need to answer before we can call activities in other apps. How do we know which activities are available on the user's devices? How do we know which of these activities are appropriate for what we want to do? And how do we know how to use these activities? Okay. The great news is that we can solve all of these problems using actions. Okay. Actions are a way of telling Android what standard operation activities can perform. What standard operations activities can perform. So that's an action. As an example, Android knows that all activities registered for a send action are capable of sending messages. Okay. Actions define what operation activities can perform. Let's explore how to create intents that use actions to return a set of activities you can use in a standard. For example, to send messages, here's what you're going to do. Okay. Updates available on Android SDK 2. SDK updates ensure that your latest features and access to update the following. Here's what we're going to do. Create an intent that specifies an action. The intent, the intent will tell Android, the intent will tell Android you want to use an activity that can send a message. Yeah. The intent will include the text of a message. Allow the user to choose which app to use. There we go. Chances are there will be more than one app on the user's device capable of sending messages. So the user will need to pick one. We want the user to be able to choose one every time they click the send message button. So create an intent that specifies an action. Intent that specifies an action. So far you've seen how to create an intent that launches a specific activity using. This intent is an example of explicit intent. You explicitly tell Android which class you want it to run. If there's an action you want done, you don't care which activity does it, you create an implicit intent. You tell Android what sort of action you want it to perform and leave the details of which activity performs it to Android. Okay, got it. How to create the intent? You create an intent that specifies an action using the following syntax. Where action is the type of activity action you want to perform. Android provides you with a number of standard actions you can use. As an example, you can use intent.action dial to dial a number, intent.action web serve to perform a web search, and intent.action send to send a message. So if you want to create an intent that specifies you want to send a message, we go with this. Done. Let's select steps. So you can find more about sorts of activity actions you can use and the extra information they support in the Android developer reference manual. Reference manual. Adding extra information. Once you've specified the action you want to use, you can add extra information to it. We want to pass some text with the intent that will form the body of the message we're sending. To do this, use the following method. So we go in where message text is a text you want to send. This tells Android that you want the activity to be able to handle data with MIME data type of text plain and also tells it what the text is. Okay, so these attributes relate to intent.action sent. They're not relevant for all actions. Okay, so they only relate to single action. You can make extra done. Then you can make extra calls to the put extra method if there is additional information you want to add. As an example, if you want to specify the subject of the message, you can use if subject isn't relevant to a particular app, it will just ignore this information. Any apps that know how to use it will do so. So change the intent to use an action. We'll update create message activity so that we create an implicit intent that uses a send action. Make changes highlighted if we want to intent with action send. Instead of creating an intent that's explicitly for receiving message activity, we're creating an intent that uses a send action. So now creating indexes. Creating an intent with the action to send. Intent equals new intent and then we define intent dot action send. Intent dot action send. Then we go, we want the intent MIME type to be text plain. Intent dot set type to be text slash plain. Then finally we put the intent dot extra text, extra subject extra text, intent dot extra text, the intent dot put extra so intent dot extra text and then we provide the text message text switches control to the next activity. Now that you've updated your code, let's break down what happens when the user clicks on the send message button. When the onSend message method is called, an intent gets created The start activity method passes this intent to Android. The intent specifies an action of action underscore send and a MIME type of text plain. Okay, explain message. Android sees that the intent can only be passed to activities able to handle action underscore send and text plain data. Android checks all the activities on the user's device, looking for one that are able to receive the intent. If no activities are available, the intent, an activity not found exception is thrown. Okay. An implicit intent. I need to find all the activities that can handle action send and have a category of default. If just one activity is able to receive the intent, Android tells the activity to start and passes it the intent. Okay. So if more than one activity is able to receive the intent, Android displays an activity chooser dialog which asks the user which one to use. Hey user, all these activities can send a message for you, which one do you want? When the user chooses the activity she wants to use, Android tells the activity to start and passes it the intent. The activity displays the extra text contained in the new intent. In the intent of an intent in the body of new message. Okay. In order to pass the intent to an activity, Android must first know which activities are capable of receiving the intent. So on the next couple of pages, we will look at how it does this. Okay, if I run it, let's see what happens. Okay, while it is in the intent filter tells Android which activities can handle which actions. When Android is given an intent, it has to figure out which activity can handle it. This process is known as intent resolution. When you use an explicit intent resolution is straightforward. The intent explicitly says which component the intent is directed at. So Android has clear instructions about what to do. So as an example, the following code explicitly tells Android to start receive message activity. When you use an implicit intent, it is done. Launching our devices. So when you use an implicit intent, Android uses the information in the intent to figure out which components are able to receive it. It does this by checking the intent filters in every app's copy of an intent filter specifies what type of intent each component can receive. As an example, here's an entry for an activity that can handle an action of action send. The activity is going to accept data of MIME type, plain or image. It's intent filter and action.send, and this is the default category. Say type in hello, click send message. Okay, let's see. It gives me all these options. Pretty sure. Yep. Chugging of RAM. Okay. An intent filter specifies what type of intent each component can receive. As examples, here's an entry for an activity that can handle an action As an example, for an activity that can handle an action underscore send, the activity is able to accept data with MIME types of text, string, or image. So we have this is just an example. This activity called share activity. This tells the Android to handle activity action send. Right? The intent filter must include a category of default or it won't be able to receive implicit. All right. So these are the types of data the activity can handle. The intent filter also specifies a category. The category supplies extra information about the activity, such as whether it can be started by a web browser or whether it's the main entry point of the app. Okay, an intent filter must include a category of Android.intent.category.default fits to receive implicit intent. If an activity has no intent filter or it doesn't include a category name of Android.intent, it means that the activity can't be started with an implicit intent. It can only be started with an explicit intent using the full name, including the package of the component. Okay. How Android uses the intent filter. Still checking up search map. Yep. We should go. How Android uses the intent filter. When you use an implicit intent, Android compares the information given in the intent. When you use an implicit intent, Android compares the information given in the intent with the information given in the intent filters in every app's Android XML file. Android first consider intent filters that include a category of default. So, intent filters without this category will be omitted as they can't receive implicit intents. Android then matches intents to intent filters by comparing the actions and MIME type contained in the intent with those of the intent filter. An example, if an intent specifies an action of intent.action sent using, Android will only consider activities that specify an intent filter with an action of sent. Right? Thus, similarly, if the intent variances, Android will only consider some type is left out. Android tries to infer the type based on the data it contains. It will also look at the category of intent filter if one is supplied by the intent. However, this feature isn't used very often. So we don't cover how to add categories to intents. Okay. Once Android has finished comparing the intent of the component's intent filter, it sees how many matches it finds. If Android finds a single match, it starts the component, in our case activity, and passes in the intent. If it finds multiple matches, it asks the user to pick one. So be the intent. Yes, sir. The job is to play like you're the intent on the right and say which of the activities described below are compatible with your action. Okay, so I'll name and I'll send. So say default yes, my type yes, activity category main text okay. Action and data say y for each one. Okay, default and works with all data types, right? Default and works with all data type. This not default. When we go default category, um, it is default. So I suppose category default and same MIME type, right? So yes, this activity accepts sends and can handle, yeah, intent send. Okay, so this should be sent to. I have to check Android intent. Is it default and works with all data type? Right? Also supports the action sent. Okay, not default, not default. Okay, default and same type. However, doesn't support send action. Support send action. See, this activity accepts action sent and cross. This activity accepts action sent and can handle data of any MIME type, so it can respond to the intent. Activity doesn't have a category of default. This activity can't accept send intents, only send to, which allows you to send a message to someone specified in the intent status. Okay, so okay, you need to run your app on a real device. So far, we've been running our apps using the emulator. The emulator only includes a small number of apps, and there may well be just one app that can handle action underscore send. In order to test our app properly, we need to run it on a physical device where we know there will be more than one app that can support our action. For example, an app that can send emails and an app that can send text messages. Here's how you go about getting your app. Maybe I'll get to it on the next time. So for now, we call it a day.